Together, we will make America great again.
RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back. Yes, my friends, to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Hope you guys are having a lovely day. We've got a couple of election-related stories today. And to help me break those down, my good friend Haury from Unite for Freedom is going to be here to talk to me about them. The other day, we had my good friend Andrew Paquette join us to talk about some strange things in Texas. Harry is also going to be talking to us about another anomaly with the numbers in Texas and a Hava complaint that they've just filed in Colorado. Now, Harry is particularly well-versed in this subject. He actually helped to write Hava back in the day, and he's seen how it's being perverted over the years. So he and Unite for Freedom are banded together to try to get things back on track here in the United States. We are also going to be talking about a wild story coming out of Ukraine and Hungary, and plenty more, including the Clintons and Epstein, a whole bunch of arrests and convictions related to fraud, and so much more. So do me a favor, if you haven't hit that button yet, hit the thumbs up, hit the like, hit the red pill, whatever it might be. That would be awesome. You can also help us out by sharing the show. And sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're going to be right back after this. Now, I'm sure you guys have probably heard all of the news about these miracle weight loss shots, but the troubling issue is that 2026 data has now officially revealed what should probably be a wake-up call for the people taking those shots. There was a major analysis that was done, and it revealed that once people stop taking these injections, they end up regaining about 60% of the weight they lost within that first year. And what's even worse about it is that most of the weight they gain back is actually pure fat. That's right, the muscle they lose stays gone because it leaves them with a crashed metabolism and a body that's functionally a lot older than when they started. This is why I'm pretty obsessed with today's new sponsor. It's called GLP-1 Elevate. Instead of using needles to override my system, it uses clinically studied, plant-based ingredients like metabolite to help my body boost its own natural hunger control signals. You end up getting that same fullness and fewer cravings, but without all of the scary side effects or the metabolic rebound. It supports my goals while protecting my muscles so I can actually keep the results for good. So to celebrate Valentine's Day and the year we have ahead, you can right now get 50% off with GLP-1 Elevate at trimwithredpill.com. Every single order comes with a complete support bundle with free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day money-back guarantee, and free express shipping on subscriptions. So head on over to the link in the description below, trimwithredpill.com right now, to claim your 50% discount before it expires. And when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, my friends, welcome back. Thank you very much for joining us. Let me give a big shout out to Sean Joe over there on pill.net. Thank you very much for the gold pill cookie. Really do appreciate it. As I promised, my good friend Haury is here with us today. We are going to be discussing several efforts that their group, Unite for Freedom, continues to operate in across the country. Harry, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you back.
Nice to be here, Zach.
Excellent. So I was just telling the audience in the introduction, we had our friend Andrew Paquette who joined us the other day, and we were going over some unique irregularities that were discovered in the Texas primary race with a whole bunch of extra ballots that showed up. I thought it was kind of neat that our margin of victory for John Cornyn over Ken Paxton was roughly the exact same number of ballots that seemed to appear out of nowhere on that day. But you and the folks at Unite for Freedom have found something else that's pretty staggering, shouldn't be happening. What can you tell us about these numbers you guys are seeing in Texas?
So we've routinely done an analysis of early voting for a number of years in Texas. And what we see every time actually is huge evidence of subtractions and deletions from the vote. First, we started looking at out-of-period subtractions and additions or deletions and additions, but then we started looking at the with high regularity in very small increments every couple of hours what the vote history was showing in the official Texas data. Now, we get some pushback because there are problems with regard to the way they record voter history. But if they record voter history, which they're supposed to do, you have a name appear, you would think it would stay on the list. But in Texas and a number of other states, we see these voter histories appear and disappear in real time. There's a individual last year, not in this current vote in the primary, but in the big election, that voted 71 times. Appeared, disappeared, appeared, disappeared, appeared, disappeared. So what we know for a fact is that federal election records that are supposed to be inviolate are showing changes that can't be explained by anything common. They're certainly irregular. We got into a bit of a debate the other night, and I wanted to talk to that a little bit about Andrew's numbers. I mean, Andrew's been working on the algorithms that seem to inject false registrations for years. Yes. And I actually worked with him extensively early on. We got into a debate about the finer meaning of Andrew's work and even the finer meaning of our own work. And the fact of the matter is all of us work hard to try to expose the mischief. So when you look at what Andrew finds in Bexar County with the 4,000 vote changes, we have evidence during this most recent vote of tens of thousands of changes across the state. So the fact is that something terrible is going wrong in Texas elections. Something terrible is also going wrong in Michigan elections, in Georgia elections, in Pennsylvania elections. But we have an acute ability to see very fine gradation of changes in Texas, and somebody needs to investigate. We raised these issues in a lawsuit which was summarily dismissed. There's all sorts of reasons for that, but as usual, they didn't listen to the evidence. And so somebody in the state of Texas, and between Andrew's work, between our work, and the work of many other patriots across the state, and Harris County, there's a lot of evidence of these kinds of changes too. But I'm not at liberty to talk about the analyst, but she's been working for years with problems in Harris County. Somebody's editing the vote. And we have it not just in the real time where things are changing back and forth, what we call oscillations. We have long-term edits, which look like a cover-up in all frankness. When you have tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of vote records change, and it's not simply, did they record the vote? We talk about the vote-to-voter discrepancy often, and there's a particular issue with the vote-to-voter discrepancy, but these are records that show that Zak Paine voted, and then 2 hours later show that he didn't vote, and then 2 hours later or 4 hours later show that he did vote again. This can only be explained by some wholly incompetent programming.
That's very generous, Harry. Wholly incompetent is one thing, but I mean, I think that pretty much at this point,
the only thing we can keep coming up with is that somebody's editing the votes
exactly
to make the history of what's going on change.
Exactly.
So, are they moving the votes from one place to another? That's what we've believed since 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And at Unite for Freedom, we centered on this particular aspect of the analysis. When I was working with Andrew, when he was up in New York, focused on New York data, because of my NSA background, I have some experience with injection of false data into data streams. I helped them quite a lot. It's significant work, and we got off track because there's a specific issue. His registration analysis points to what's happening on the registration side, and it's been known since 1867 that fake votes are injected with fake registration. Right. So it's perfectly reasonable to say that this is beyond so far beyond unacceptable that we need to do something. But then what we aim to do is prove that there's effect at scale. And if you look across the country at the places we have the data, we see hundreds and hundreds of thousands of changes. Matter of fact, in Texas, if you do the measurement fast enough with these changes back and forth, you get up into the millions of changes. And people say, well, there can't be that much cheating. Well, first of all, do you know that there's not that much cheating? Secondly, if they're pre-positioning data, they're only going to fill the data in the places they need it.
Right.
And this is actually what's quite significant about Bexar County is that although there's no proof that they're associated, the numbers come up close to the same. The number that they show as injected registrations appears very close to the number of ballot changes that occur in that particular location. It all, what we're talking about, what Cause of America is talking about, what EIN is talking about, what Project Civic is talking about, what everybody's talking about needs to be taken seriously.
Yes.
And it needs to be investigated. Well, at Unite for Freedom, we talk about the magnitude of the effect, not specific, reverse engineering type efforts.
And here's the thing. I mean, just the very fact that you and others have shown that these changes are possible, regardless of whether or not you've shown explicitly that a change has been made or that it's had an effect, the fact that it exists, that is a huge problem because it shouldn't be possible theoretically in a free and fair election. The numbers should be the numbers. I'm looking at this data that you guys have here from Texas, and you're showing numbers, 65% of votes recorded, which equals 7,214 votes. Then, allegedly, with 71% of the votes being counted, it's now 6,226 votes. Then, with 2% more, it's now 6,734. And then, a slight time later, still at 73%, it's now back down to 6,538 votes. These votes are going somewhere. Somebody is doing something. It's being manipulated, and that's what people are upset about.
So what we believe is happening, our theory, just to be clear.
Yeah.
But it's our theory, and I think Andrew would share this particular theory, is that they're moving votes around and that they have not synchronized the back-end reporting of the vote history with the actual systems that are counting the votes. And so what you get is a temporary misalignment of the tabulation results and the voter histories that are being reported. So you have a temporary desynchronization, but this shouldn't be occurring.
No.
you shouldn't see the total percentage reporting go up while the total number of votes counted are going down. That means that somebody took something out of the count.
Yes.
Or the reported voter history, if you will. So There's just no explanation for it that makes any sense at all. We've been complaining about it. We actually sued the state of Texas about it. Of course, everybody wanted to ignore it. But the fact is, this has got to get fixed, and it's not just Texas. It's California, it's Illinois, it's New York, it's Pennsylvania, it's Michigan, it's Wisconsin, it's Georgia, it's everywhere. It's in Missouri, probably one of the most red states in the country. People talk to me all the time that I'm just some partisan hack. The fact is, if we don't have the ability to change our electoral decisions, to change who's representing us, which effectively, if they're stealing at this scale they're doing, whoever they are, we have a real problem in this country. The Constitution guarantees representative government in our constitutional republic, and somehow we've decided, the courts have decided, the elected officials have decided, and the election officials have decided that the law no longer matters. And all these are violations. What is directly determined by Andrew's work is that there are fake registrations being injected into the system in real time. There is a bit of a problem with the provenance of the data on Andrew's latest study, but on his other studies, there's no problem with provenance at all. And the algorithms, and it's not Andrew's problem, that this data came into our hands by accident.
Right. Right.
And so somehow this data file exists out in the nether world, not visible to anybody. That data doesn't show up on the actual voter history at all. Why is that? Why does this even exist? Is someone just playing around with numbers? I don't think so. I think they sent an export file by accident without looking at it.
That's pretty much the way it looks to me, too. All right. Well, tell us about your Hava complaint you've also filed against Colorado. That's against the Secretary of State?
So we've been working with Peter Berniger and one of our own volunteers, Connie Kramer, to build these Hava complaints. And we now have a template that uses Unite for Freedom statewide data that shows violations of registration laws, shows violations of federal restrictions on allowing people with false registrations or defective registrations. They're not supposed to vote.
Right.
And so, maybe give them a provisional ballot and try to resolve it afterward, but nobody ever takes the time to do that. They just don't ever count them. And then we have the vote-to-voter discrepancy, which is the difference between the number of votes counted and the number of people counted. And then we have this new stuff, which is an ongoing stream of real-time changes and after-the-fact changes to voter histories. And it's not about whether the voter histories are accurate. It's why are they changing? People that were there aren't there. People that weren't there are there now. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. So the Hava complaints are addressing the specific legal violations of Hava, and this fits into a long-term plan that we have, which I know a lot of other people are working toward this as well. But a lot of these are statutorily forbidden and constitute a denial of fair and free elections, which is guaranteed by U.S. statute. So it's a crime to deny the people a free and fair and honest election. It's a crime. So people need to be held accountable. We can't resolve it administratively because the people that are responsible are blocking the administrative review.
Right.
So let's go ahead, take them to court, or go investigate them. People scream and yell about the federal seizure in Fulton County. There's clear evidence of federal law violations in Fulton County. The seizure is completely appropriate.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, most states have at least one or more counties, red and blue and purple, that need to be investigated for massive criminal violations. So the starting point of that is to put these violations on the record. Most people don't even know it, but rendering a false election under Hava is a crime, punishable by 5 years. It's in section 900 of Hava. So most people don't know it because they don't read that section. But the last section applies to criminal provisions in Hava. Everybody says it's administrative only. It's actually got criminal provisions built into it, and it subsumes all the other criminal provisions of election law as being applicable to Hava as well. So people just don't understand. They think that this is all a bunch of record keeping problem. This is the guardrail of our republic, is our election. And they're telling us repeatedly that they are certifying elections with massive errors in them. They call them errors. We call them fraud, because that's what the criminal statutes call an error. It's not, people think of it like financial fraud. You don't have intent. I mean, it's been the law of the United States since 1888 that honesty in election reporting is a requirement. Whether you're ignorant, malicious, or just apathetic, it doesn't matter. We call it MIA, malicious, ignorant, or apathetic. But the fact of the matter is that the election officials have a duty to execute a correct election. And if it's not correct, they have a duty not to certify. And in 2020 and in 2022 and in 2024, you have secretaries of state arguing that the county officials that are responsible for their counts are just violating their ministerial duties by not certifying. In fact, certification is an actual requirement under almost all state laws. And when you certify something that's not true, that has errors in it that could have affected the outcome, you're committing perjury. So it's time to stop this. And I think everybody feels the pressure because 2026 is on the horizon. Right?
It's here.
So, and the election is just a few months away, and we have not gotten this situation resolved. So we need some more criminal investigations, President Trump. And Unite for Freedom data, Project Civica data, Cause of America data, we're all working hard toward the same cause. We had a little bit of a blip on the Twitter spaces or the spaces discussions, X spaces and stuff the other day, but the fact of the matter is we need to figure out how to combine our will and demand that the officials of the United States of America, the DOJ, investigate these matters and prosecute if it's appropriate. It's the only answer.
I mean, I think everybody listening is essentially sitting on the edge of their seat. I mean, I see it every single day. If we don't fix this before November, we're sunk. I feel like everybody says that every 2 years, but there does seem to be a certain sense of urgency now because President Trump has come back. Many people feel like we have the right players, the people who would ultimately be the ones listening to us and making decisions on whether or not they are going to investigate, whether they're going to indict people. But the pace has been fairly slow. I mean, I think everybody was extremely happy to see what happened in Fulton County. But like you said, Fulton County is by no means the only place that we could go in the United States to make a case for criminal activity related to elections.
The entire state of Pennsylvania ought to have their election equipment and paper records seized. The entire state.
Yeah.
The entire state of Michigan. It's not quite that bad in Colorado, but it's close. California, Illinois, New York, are you kidding? I mean, but we have the same problem in red states. This is not a partisan issue. Right. We're affected by the people that are stealing our vote, but they're stealing Democrat votes too, just to be clear. So yes. It's we can't tolerate this if we intend to, we get this admonition. Okay, now you have a republic. Let's see if you can keep it. We are proving that we can't keep it. Are you all willing out there in your audience to just sit down and take it? How long until they steal your house? How long until they steal your kids? Oh, wait, they're already doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Very true. All right. Well, listen, Harry, we're out of time, but I really do appreciate you coming by. And obviously, we're going to continue to follow all of this. And if there are any updates, please do have your people reach out to me. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Zach.
Right. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon, Harry.
Bye-bye.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much to Harry Haury for joining us and the people at Unite for Freedom. Let me just close out of the account here on Zoom. and we will go ahead and jump into the next portion of our show. All right, so if you guys want to follow their work, you can go to unite4freedom.com. I also passed out a link to their Twitter account, Unite for Freedom, and let me see, at Unite for Freedom, if you want to follow them on X. I would recommend doing that in both instances. All right, so I've got several stories I want to start off here with us today. And actually, hold on, I forgot to send out the link to the show to somebody who needs it. So give me just 1 second and let me send this email very quickly. Hopefully the stream is looking nice and smooth. When we first started off, there was a couple of hiccups and I had to refresh the stream basically. Let's see here. Oh, shoot, that's the wrong one. Live now. Okay, so I also see that somebody sent me an email. John, he says, no, I'm sorry. Where is this? Roe sends me an email that says, if Ken Paxton is so good, then why are all these mosques in Texas? Okay, Ken Paxton is the Attorney General of the state of Texas, so he would prosecute crimes. Ken Paxton would not be in charge of land sales or purchases, and Ken Paxton actually has gone after that large Muslim cooperative on the basis of laws that he could prosecute on. So in terms of people buying land and putting mosques up, that really has nothing to do with Ken Paxton. People need to really have an understanding of how our government works, both at the state and federal level, also at the local level, to understand the jobs that people do. The Attorney General of the United States is the top law enforcement official of the United States. She oversees the Department of Justice. And then there is a hierarchy, like an executive structure within the Department of Justice. The same is true for Ken Paxton for the state of Texas. So Ken Paxton, the Attorney General's office, prosecutes crimes, and they have their own hierarchy and structure overseeing prosecutors. And you have to be able to prove a crime. There has to be an investigation showing that something has happened. Ken Paxton, as a Christian, can't just walk into a land sale and say, you guys are Muslims, I don't want you building a mosque here. There has to be a law that is broken. And if you want to blame somebody, I see a lot of people saying it in the chat, blame Governor Abbott. I understand that Governor Abbott's number one donator for his campaigns is a Pakistani national or somebody who's of Pakistani descent who appears to be Muslim. So there is a distinct order of operations as to how things must be dealt with. All right. But Ken Paxton does not decide who gets to build what, where. That's just simply not how it works. All right. Now, let's take a look at this story from yesterday that we talked about. Senator Steve Daines, Republican Senator Steve Daines. A little bit suspicious yesterday when he chose to drop out at the 11th hour, giving the person he ostensibly assumed was going to replace him just minutes to put the application in and declare himself as a candidate. Now, I have come to believe that this was a calculated play to ensure that the Democrats would not be able to get a candidate ready in time, which is exactly what happened. So it sounds like President Trump and Steve Daines worked together to sort of outmaneuver Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. If this was going to be a wide open seat and they had time to get their stuff together, put a campaign together, get a lot of money behind somebody so that they could then run them in a district that they might be able to win by spending a lot of cash, then they would have. But they can't now, and it essentially means that the man that Steve Daines and President Trump have already endorsed to replace him in the general election, he's going to be the guy that gets the job. So I feel like this was a pretty brilliant 5D chess move. Let me say thank you so much to Filter Dog, who says election fraud needs to stop ASAP. People need to go to jail ASAP. I think that is the most important thing that we could get out of this. We also need to say thank you very much to Karen Allen. Thank you for the cookie. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie and the can. Thank you to Dixie for the can. Thank you to Pensator for the cookie. And thank you to Sean Joe for another cookie. I appreciate you guys. All right, so let us begin here. First of all, before we talk about our next story, I do have a very brief message from a sponsor over here on Rumble. Let me say thank you very much to Rumble, and thank you very much to our friend Harry Haury, who just left. If you guys didn't get a chance to watch that, then definitely check that out when you come back later, or you can rewind the show. All right, you guys, you know how dialing in your optic can burn through boxes of ammo in half your weekend. If it's not hitting properly, then you're just going to keep throwing brass downrange. Not anymore. With the with the Bore Sighter, you can zero any optic in under 90 seconds without even firing a single shot. It's a total game changer. Zero faster than ever with this guy. It fits 17 to 50 cal. There's no ammo, no range time. It's USB rechargeable, which means it's ready to go every single time, whether you're going to be getting prepped for hunting season or you just like keeping your gear dialed in. The Bore will save you time, money, and a whole lot of frustration. And to get yours, you can just scan that QR code that you see on screen, or you can head directly over to the website, mcgtac.com/redboar, REDBOAR, to get the faster, easiest way to zero your optic, period. Once again, that's mcgtac.com/redboar, and grab that bore. Awesome. Sounds pretty sweet. And thank you very much to MCG Tech for helping us out. You guys can, again, hit that QR code on screen or the link that you're going to see in the chat over there on Rumble. Okay, so we have an update for you on the U.S. congressional race, Texas 23, between Tony Gonzalez and Brandon Herrera, the AK guy. This would be Brandon's second race against Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez, yesterday, as we reported, was asked to step out of the race by the Republican leadership in Congress. After that announcement came out and Brandon Herrera and many others had told Tony that this would be the right thing to do, a number of images were released, including this image right here of Tony Gonzalez and his now deceased staffer, Regina Santos Aviles. We don't know exactly when this photograph was taken, but it was obviously taken before she set herself on fire. And she and Tony appear to be alone somewhere out in the West Texas high country. Now, this is particularly notable because although Mr. Gonzalez did somewhat admit that he had an affair with her yesterday, he really phrased it as a lapse of judgment. It was a PR nightmare. Later on that day, Tony did officially drop out of the race, which means that Brandon Herrera is now the presumptive winner come November. Certainly, they're not going to have to worry about a runoff, and this is a Republican district, so unless something tragic and unforeseen happens between now and November, Brandon Herrera is the guy to beat. So Tony put this out yesterday. At 18, I swore an oath to defend our great nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic, during my 20 years in the military and 3 terms in Congress. I have fought for that cause with absolute dedication to the country that I love. From overcoming the border crisis to taking a stand with my communities after the worst school shooting in Texas history, my philosophy has never changed. Do as much as you can and always fight for the greater good. After deep reflection and with the support of my loving family, I have decided not to seek re-election while serving out the rest of this Congress with the same commitment I've always had to my district. Though through the rest of my term, I will continue fighting for my constituents, for whom I am eternally grateful. And he ends by saying, God has a plan for us all. Well, God's plan for you, Tony, was probably not to have an affair or not to have multiple affairs with numerous women outside of your marriage. Certainly, the plan is not for you to continue serving in Congress, which means that Brandon Herrera is the guy. He says, I appreciate Tony Gonzalez for making the appropriate decision. I look forward to being the voice of Texas 23 that our district deserves, from the border to oil theft, water rights, data centers, and many other issues. It's an honor to be chosen, and together we will make Texas proud. Now, I know that there will be people who ask, so I will tell you right now, Brandon is not supported by AIPAC. Brandon has not taken a dime from AIPAC. Brandon has also publicly stated that he will not take any money from AIPAC. So that means Brandon is going to be one of the rare members of Congress who is not on the payroll of a foreign entity. It's technically an American entity, but a foreign-aligned group. So I want you to keep that in mind when you head to the voting booth if you live in Texas 23. Tricia says, after yesterday's show, I started feeling discouraged. It doesn't matter what we do or who gets charged with crimes. If the judge and jury don't agree, we are screwed. We must pray more. So don't worry, Tricia. That was only one district in the entire country, and there are many others. And as I said yesterday, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what the DOJ is planning. There could be any number of things that I haven't even considered yet, which may make it possible for justice to be brought. And certainly the idea has been floated around of getting rid of the district court in D.C. Personally, I think that is the answer. Also, of course, judges need to be held accountable. But as it stands right now, of course, that hasn't happened yet. But you should not allow that to get you discouraged, because this is a big country, my dear. This is a very big country, and there are certainly places like down here in Florida where justice is possible. All right, now, one congressman to a congresswoman. Tony did not get charged with any crimes, although he did get caught with his hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. Sheila Cherfulus McCormick, a Democrat representative from down here in Florida, whom I told you about maybe 4 months ago when she was first charged with fraudulently obtaining COVID funds and siphoning money out of her campaign account to buy a $100,000 diamond ring and to do a whole bunch of other illegal things. She is still sitting in Congress. I haven't heard a single Democrat demand that she step down from her position. Hey, Zach, where's the Tina Peters? Oh, yeah, where is the Tina Peters? Hold on. Oh, my God, it's gone. It's not on. I'm gonna have to find it after the show, guys, because it's on my desktop, but it's not connecting to my desktop. Thank you very much, Teresa. She's not on screen. $5 rant challenge. I have 4 of us covered. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hang on just a second. Let me see if I accidentally threw it in my recycling bin when I was cleaning up. I had so many people giving me guff about the number of things on my desktop. Clean up by date created. Got it. There she is. Tina's back. All right. Thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate that. All right. So Miss Cherfulus McCormick is still facing charges. The Ethics Committee, which really is a cover-up committee, I think we've pretty much determined that. The Ethics Committee has done nothing to hold her to account. There was supposed to be a hearing, but they've just postponed it. And it's now supposed to be happening later this month. I'm sorry, I said COVID funds. It was FEMA funds. So a hearing of an adjunctory subcommittee of the ethics panel was pushed from this Thursday, yesterday, now to March 26th, after the lawmakers' counsel in the matter withdrew from representing her before the adjunctory committee. That means that Sheila Cherfulus McCormick's lawyer fired her. That might be because she no longer has money to hire him to be her lawyer. Representative Cherfulus McCormick asked for a brief continuance to allow her to retain new counsel. Lawmakers on the Ethics Committee, which adjudicates allegations of misconduct against House members and staff, were poised to meet to determine whether the allegations against Cherfulus McCormick have been proven by clear and convincing evidence. Well, she hasn't faced trial yet. The evidence, I think, is overwhelming, but of course, she is innocent until proven guilty. This, as a standard of decision-making, I think is flawed. And it didn't even matter before George Santos was convicted. They kicked his ass out of Congress, too. It's happened a number of times with Republicans. I can't remember the last time a Democrat was booted out of Congress for bad behavior, although there's been plenty of times that it could have happened. All right. So Miss McCormick has a brief reprieve from any sort of ethics investigation. Now, this is a story that Lisa and I found it last night, and Lisa and I started just dying laughing. Now, I can't tell if this is real or not. I have done everything in my power to find any other number of sources. I found a source that was quoted from the AP. There's a whole bunch of real stories that are on this website. This is not the only place that I found this story. It's kind of like taking the internet by storm. But listen to this headline. Mysterious dolphin kidnapping case takes bizarre turn as victim's background raises new questions. Now, if there's anybody down in Fort Myers listening and you've heard about this locally, I really want to talk to you. So listen to this. Apparently, local residents and a lot of people on social media have been taken aback hearing a story about a 33-year-old man who very recently on Monday morning was found disoriented and sunburned on the Sanibel Causeway at around 5:45 a.m. Now, what happened to him, he said that he was abducted by a pod of dolphins and forced to labor on an elaborate underwater construction project. As soon as I read that, I literally just started guffawing. I was like, there's no way this is real. So I started looking to see if it was from the, that B site or the Onion or something like that. And I couldn't find it on any of those obviously fake websites. So this is an outlandish story, an outlandish tale. But now there is a little bit of background information about the guy. There were medical evaluations that were allegedly done on him, and there are some members of the police department who have commented as well. Now, this is the Lee County Sheriff's Office that has jurisdiction over it. They got a 911 call around 5:45 a.m. on Monday morning. A motorist that was driving by spotted this 33-year-old man. His name is Ricky James Hollowell, and he was standing barefoot on the shoulder of the causeway. He was drenched in seawater, and he was frantically sketching diagrams in the wet sand. Now, Hollowell, I guess, lives in Cape Coral. He was wearing a pair of faded blue swim trunks. He had severe sunburn covering his upper body, and he had what appeared to be abrasions on his hands and feet. And he said that it was because he was handling coral and structural materials as he was working with these dolphins underwater. Now, according to the official incident report that was obtained by the Associated Press, Hollowell recounted being approached by a group of bottlenose dolphins while swimming recreationally off of Fort Myers Beach on Friday afternoon. He said, "They surrounded me like a security detail. It wasn't aggressive at first, but they nudged me deeper away from the shore, and before I knew it, I was at a site about 40 feet down in the Gulf, helping them build what looked like a full-scale aquatic habitat." Hollowell described the dolphins communicating via a complex series of echolocation clicks and whistles, which he said he picked up on after a few hours. He said it was like learning a new language on the fly. He identified the apparent leader of the pod as Gerald, a larger male dolphin with distinctive scarring on his dorsal fin, whom he referred to as the Project Foreman. Like the Project Foreman, Gerald the dolphin. When pressed by deputies on how he survived underwater for 3 days without oxygen equipment, Hollowell replied cryptically, "Gerald handled the breathing part, some kind of bubble system or pressure adaptation. I didn't ask too many questions. You don't question Gerald. He's got that authoritative vibe." Deputies noted that Hollowell's sand sketches were remarkably detailed, spanning roughly 10 feet across and including scaled blueprints for what resembled a submerged community. Multi-level condo structures made from natural coral and synthetic-like materials. a central town square with gathering pods, and even a recreation center featuring what Hollowell described as dolphin-friendly obstacle courses. Deputy Sean Oakley, an 11-year veteran of the Sheriff's Department, remarked in the report, "I've seen my share of oddities in Lee County, but this guy's diagrams had zoning regulations penciled in, setbacks, load-bearing specs, even environmental impact notes. It was detailed enough to make you wonder if he wasn't onto something." Hollowell was released Sunday evening after the Dolphins deemed his contributions satisfactory, with Gerald allegedly signaling that they might return for phase 2 of the project. He then swam to shore, disoriented from exhaustion, and hitchhiked partway to the causeway before collapsing. Emergency responders transported Hollowell to Lee Memorial Hospital for evaluation, where he was treated for dehydration and sunburn. There were no drugs or alcohol detected in his system. As of Thursday afternoon, which was yesterday, hospital officials have cleared Hollowell with a clean bill of health, reporting no signs of delirium, psychosis, or head trauma that could explain hallucinations. However, a routine chest x-ray and fluid analysis revealed trace amounts of Gulf seawater in his lungs, specifically saline levels matching samples from 30 to 50 feet offshore, with microscopic marine particles like diatoms and plankton residue. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the attending pulmonologist, stated in a released summary, "This isn't consistent with a brief drowning incident or aspiration from swimming. It's as if his respiratory system was exposed to seawater for an extended period, yet without the expected inflammation or damage. We are consulting marine biologists for further insight, but it is puzzling." Now, adding to the enigma, a background check conducted by the Lee County Sheriff's Office uncovered Hollowell's impressive professional history in aerospace engineering. Hollowell, who holds a master's degree in aerospace structures from the Massachusetts Institutes of Technology, previously worked for a decade at Lockheed Martin in Orlando, where he specialized in advanced composite materials and submersible vehicle designs for deep-sea exploration projects that were funded by NASA and the U.S. Navy. Colleagues described him as brilliant but eccentric, with patents on lightweight, pressure-resistant habitats intended for extraterrestrial or ocean use. One former supervisor, speaking anonymously, said Ricky was always talking about bio-inspired engineering, mimicking marine life for better tech. If anyone's story about building for dolphins could have a kernel of truth, it's going to be his. In a twist that has fueled online speculation, Hollowell announced via a LinkedIn post late Wednesday that he had been tapped to head a new satellite office for an undisclosed aerospace firm in Fort Myers. The office, set to open next month in the city's tech corridor near Alico Road, will focus on innovative marine aerospace integrations, according to the Post. When reached for comment, Hollowell declined to elaborate, but added with a chuckle, "Let's just say Gerald might have headhunted me. Phase 2 could be bigger than anyone imagines." The sheriff's office has classified the incident as unresolved but not criminal, with no active investigation into dolphin-related abductions. Marine experts from Mote Marine Laboratory in Sarasota, consulted by authorities, dismissed the claims as improbable, but acknowledged that bottlenose dolphins in the Gulf are known for intelligent social behaviors and occasional human interactions. Pods have been documented escorting swimmers, but construction work, that's a stretch, said Dr. Marcus Hale, a cetacean behaviorist. Still, with the medical anomalies, we're not ruling out environmental factors or an undiagnosed condition. Social media users have dubbed this saga Dolphin Gate, with theories ranging from a government black ops test to an elaborate hoax. Hollowell, meanwhile, remains at home recovering, reportedly sketching more blueprints. Gerald, the alleged dolphin foreman, remains unavailable for comment, as do any underwater city officials. So, when you see something like this reported on Twitter, okay, if it's a fake story, somebody has community noted it. And there's no community notes on this. I can't find any community notes. I can't find anything disproving that this happened. And looking for anything related to anything from this story. So if there is any person who lives in Fort Myers and can tell me anything about this story, If it's being talked about locally, I want to know about it because it's fascinating, obviously, and really funny. And if it's simply just a troll, I'm totally cool with that. But I thought it was too funny not to bring it to you guys. Let's see. CBS News gives me, oh my God. Okay, so so this is not the whole link, Teresa. Can you email this to me? Because it looks like the link is too long and it got cut off. Dang it. Hold on. Let me try to pull it up. Okay, so Florida man news funny wacky. Florida man news funny wacky Lee County. Okay. Dolphins are back in the headlines. Lee County Sheriff's Office is setting the record straight on Friday after an outlandish online rumor claimed marine mammals were behind an underwater construction operation off Florida's coast. The story gained traction after it was widely shared by a post reference to Florida resident who allegedly reported being kidnapped by dolphins. The sheriff's office responded with a tongue-in-cheek statement assuring residents that the region's real estate market has not expanded below sea level. Deputies said they consulted their fictional underwater construction investigation team to look into the claim, and they deny any involvement. Okay, no dolphins. Okay, while rumors sparked plenty of online laughs, the sheriff's office emphasized the situation is purely humorous. The agency added in a playful disclaimer, no dolphins were harmed in the making of this rumor. The department frequently uses lighthearted posts to engage with the community. Okay, so the Lee County Sheriff's Office made this up and posted it, and it was picked up by a number of local news stations, which made it seem like it was totally real. I absolutely love it. Man, that is so good. That is so good. I've actually seen a documentary with the Lee County Sheriff, and he's pretty cool. he's pretty based, and he's a funny guy. Oh my God. I love it. I almost waited to do this on baseless conspiracies, but I was like, I can't wait. I got to talk about it. Unicorn 77 says, free Tina Peters. Thank you, Zach, for keeping her in the show. Absolutely. All right. Now, this is not a hoax, but if you'll remember, the missing retired Major General William Neal McCasland, who reportedly left his home, leaving his phone, his wallet, and all of his personal effects last week, he is still missing. And the FBI is currently on the ground with a command center set up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And they're going door to door to find if anybody has any information about the missing Major General McCasland. So this is really all we know at this point. It is a very strange timing. We recently lost two brilliant scientists that their work could have touched upon perhaps some of the information that's going to be released from the Pentagon in the near future. And Major General William McCasland, he was directly involved in the reverse engineering of technology that the United States government military came upon, but didn't know where it came from. And the fact that he is missing right after these two deaths, and then also the announcement from President Trump, it's just a little bit suspicious. So keep him in your prayers because this guy's a good one. And I think the FBI is likely going to have they're going to have a real time trying to figure out exactly where he is and what the deal is. All right. Now, we also have a story having to do with the FBI. Apparently, the FBI is addressing a cyber incident they announced yesterday. There was a discovery of suspicious activities on their own networks. This is basically an admission that somebody had hacked into FBI networks. The FBI identified and addressed suspicious activities on their networks, and we have leveraged all technical capabilities to respond. We have nothing additional to provide. The targeted networks are known as the Digital Collection System. Documents obtained by a Freedom of Information Act request by the Electronic Frontier Foundation decades ago described the FBI's Digital Collection Systems Network as a suite of software that is used by the Bureau to conduct a wide range of surveillance activities, from wiretaps to pen registers. These are surveillance tools that record phone numbers, IP addresses, signaling, and a number of other electronic pieces of information in real time. So, because this is essentially a hack of FBI systems, they are taking it pretty seriously. They describe the investigation as being related to a system used to manage wiretapping and foreign intelligence surveillance warrants as part of investigations. Officials are working to determine the seriousness of the incident. They pointed out that hackers are constantly trying to gain access to the agency's data, but it's pretty rare when they are able to actually breach, and it's even rarer that such a breach would be admitted to the public. It's not clear whether this latest bout of suspicious activity that the FBI uncovered is connected to a serious breach called Salt Typhoon, which is attributed to Chinese intelligence. It affected a variety of different U.S. government networks. They believe that Chinese hackers had infiltrated private sector communications providers and were using those as leverage to target national security networks. This is also just 2 days after the FBI and the Department of Justice announced that they had dismantled and taken down one of the largest global hacking forums. This was not just a place where hackers could go and hang out and talk to each other on a message board. There was actually a market dealing in the stolen information of people all around the world. So this could be retaliation for that action. The Department of Justice announced today the seizure of the LeakBase database. This was one of the world's largest online forums for cyber criminals to buy and sell stolen data and cybercrime tools. They also released an unsealed affidavit along with the seizure of the website. There were over 142,000 members and 215,000 messages between those members. Available on the open web and in English, the forum had an enormous and continuously updated archive of hacked databases, including many from high-profile attacks, including hundreds of millions of account credentials. LeakBase allowed the forum users to sell that information from those stolen databases, which included data that was illegally obtained from individuals, corporations. They would offer credit and debit card numbers, banking account and routing information, usernames, and associated passwords, which could then be used to facilitate additional account takeovers and seizure of money stolen from people's accounts, sensitive business information, other personally identifiable information. So undoubtedly, the hackers that were using this as a service were probably pretty pissed off at the FBI for taking it down. So definitely going to be watching this story, because if somebody got into the FBI, then they could have gotten in virtually anywhere within the U.S. government systems. Now, yesterday I was unable to talk about a very troubling interaction that took place between Volodymyr Zelensky and Hungarian President Viktor Orban. Zelensky essentially threatened to send Ukrainian special forces into Hungary to kill Viktor Orban because Orban and Hungary are blocking $90 billion in EU aid. Now, here he said, "We hope this one person, Orban, in the EU will not block $90 billion in aid. Otherwise, we will give this person's address to our armed forces." He said this in the midst of a government meeting, kind of off the cuff, but it was a direct threat to Hungary and to Orban directly. The Hungarian authorities did not take kindly to it, especially since Ukrainian military has recently targeted Hungarian infrastructure, which was, for like oil and gas delivery. They did the same thing to Slovakia. And Slovakia and Hungary are now talking about completely shutting off all support for Ukraine in any respect. Now, there is a pipeline that the Ukrainians have threatened to destroy entirely. They have already done damage to it. And Orban is basically telling Hungary, you either let us continue to flow oil through this pipeline, or things are going to be bad for you. And certainly in this precarious time for Ukraine, $90 billion in aid that might be coming in from the EU authorities, if it wasn't to come in, well, that would put them in a position where they would be even more at a disadvantage than they are now. perhaps in response to Ukraine's threats to Viktor Orban. Hungary, earlier today, their counterterrorism forces arrested 7 Ukrainian citizens that were suspected of engaging in money laundering. They seized $80 million or 80 million euros, I think it was at the end of the day, and 9 kilograms of gold in the form of pressed gold bars. So this money and the gold was headed on its way to Ukraine. Now, the conflict between Hungary and Ukraine saw an explosive development when the special forces essentially stopped a armored vehicle that was transporting this money, pulled all of the Ukrainian citizens out and arrested them, and then shared the video on social media. Here it is. Yeah, Spirit Anon, that's just one truck. The real question is, how many of these trucks through a daily basis are traveling from one European Union country through Hungary or through another country and then making its way into Ukraine on a daily basis? I mean, there's a lot of roads in the UK. That means there's a lot of opportunity for many, many tens of millions of dollars packed into one single vehicle to make its way into Zelensky's hands. Now, this is especially interesting because one of the people who was arrested was actually a former Ukrainian high-ranking government official. He was a Ukrainian intelligence general. Now, the men that were arrested along with him were employees of the Ukrainian state-owned bank, and they have been officially charged with money laundering. Now, you can see here in this tweet, and actually I think I've got it pulled up in another. Yeah, here we go. All right, so in this shipment, Hungarian authorities detained 7 Ukrainian nationals, including the former intelligence general. They were transporting $40 million in American dollars, 35 million euros, and then 9 kilos of gold. It was coming from Austria to Ukraine. It was in 2 armored cash vehicles. The Hungarian tax authority has launched a money laundering investigation, and the individuals have been expelled from Hungary. What makes this even more alarming is that since January, more than 900 million, more than 420 million euros, and more than 146 kilograms of gold have reportedly been transported through Hungary towards Ukraine. So close, over $1 billion in just money. 146 kilos of gold. Hold on. Let's actually take a look. What is the kilo of gold price today? Let's call it $169,000. So $169,000 times 146. So that's roughly $25 million in gold right there. So since January, all of that has flowed through Hungary and towards Ukraine. Armored vehicles full of cash and gold moving across Hungary is not how legitimate financial transactions usually work. The real question is simple. Who stands behind the money, and what is it meant to finance? Hungarian authorities have launched a full investigation. Now those responsible must provide answers. They've also posted pictures. I believe the bags have American money in it. These are euros right here in the plastic bundles. And then the gold is right here. Oh my God, look at all that gold. Can you guys imagine holding 9 kilos of gold in your hands? Even just a single kilogram bar of gold. That would just be incredible. Now, of course, the Ukrainians are not happy about this. They are very unhappy. So the general of the SBU, the man who was detained in Hungary together with the bank employees in this cash money laundering scheme, turns out to be a man by the name of Gennady Kuznetsov. He was the former chief of staff at the Anti-Terrorist Center at the SBU, which is like the Ukraine special, like the CIA, basically, or the FBI. I'm not exactly certain. I think it's a combination of both, pretty much. And he's been linked to the SBU's Alpha Special Operations Unit from 2014 to 2015. On February 24th of 2011, the Pskwy District Court of Kiev convicted him for negligent attitude towards military service. This is a corruption-related offense. He was dismissed from the SBU twice over different convictions for corruption. In 2019 and 2020, investigations showed that Kuznetsov was a close associate of Andrei Yermak. Andrei Yermak was, of course, a close associate of Volodymyr Zelensky. He fled the nation when it turned out that he was stealing money from the Ukrainian people. Publications from that period accused them of turning prisoner exchanges into a profitable business involving ransoms, kickbacks, or personal enrichment schemes. Kuznetsov has also faced separate serious accusations of collaborating with the Russian FSB, including claims that he turned parts of the ATC into an FSB outpost. He's known in Ukraine as Sobachnik, roughly dogman, due to his known enthusiasm for hunting dogs. Big question is, why would this shady intelligence guy be in charge of this very suspicious transfer of huge amounts of money? How many intelligence agency generals have you heard of being involved in these types of operations? Can't say that I have with any specificity. Now, I have heard an unconfirmed report, because it's just kind of going around Twitter, but allegedly this money is tied to a Ukrainian scam call center operation. So allegedly, Zelensky has these scam call centers operating throughout Ukraine and or other parts of the EU, and they are making these scam calls to people all over the world, including the Ukrainian people. They are stealing their money, and then that money is then being sent back and laundered directly to Zelensky to continue to enrich his lavish lifestyle. I mean, cocaine is not cheap. I will tell you that right off the bat. So we're talking in just a 2-month period, $1 billion, more than $1 billion having been laundered back from Austria into Ukraine. Go back to the start of the war. Think about how many billions of dollars. If we're doing $1 billion every 2 months, that's $6 billion a year, and several years now have eclipsed since the start of this conflict. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiha said 7 Ukrainians were transporting funds between Austria and Ukraine as just part of a routine banking operation when Hungarian authorities stopped them. In fact, we are talking about Hungary taking hostages and stealing money, he wrote on X. If this is the force announced earlier by Mr. Orban, then it is the force of a criminal gang. This is state terrorism and racketeering. Orshads Bank said 2 armored vehicles were detained during a regular transfer between Austria's Raiffeisen Bank and the Ukrainian state lender. These are funds entrusted to the bank by citizens and businesses of Ukraine. They were transported from Austria for further use in circulation and saturation of the cash market in Ukraine. The total amount of Oshad Bank funds, the fate of which is currently unknown, is $40 million, 35 million euros, and 9 kilograms of gold. Of course, this is an official Ukrainian government statement. Don't know that I necessarily believe them. Principled Enigma is now a monthly supporter over there on Rumble. Thank you so much, buddy. I really do appreciate it. Good to see you around. All right. Now, before we continue, I have another special message from our friends over on Rumble. Let me say thank you very much to them. Here's just a little inside scoop that a lot of creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons I'm using Rumble. They've made a way to super chat creators so that we get paid immediately and without any fees. YouTube and Twitch take up to 50% of fees when you tip creators. This method takes none. Of course, I am not monetized on YouTube, and I am still banned on Twitch. Very grateful to Rumble. That's right. This platform, Rumble, takes 0 fees, so I keep nearly 100% of the money that you actually send to me. You can super chat using Bitcoin, Tether USD, or Tether Gold stablecoins, and the tip is then going to show up directly on the Rumble super chat, which I will, of course, read, and if you guys have any special messages you want to send, just go ahead and do it that way. All you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and then send the tip to people like me or your other favorite creators. You can also go directly to wallet.rumble.com, or you can download the app directly from the App Store. Seriously, it's an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and to help the creator economy. So big shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. You got that QR code right there, wallet.rumble.com. Thank you so much to Rumble. I appreciate you guys. All right. And Principled Enigma, again, brother, good to see you out there, man. Haven't seen your name for a real long time. All right. Now we got to talk a little bit about Jeffrey Epstein. Sorry, I got to finish my protein shake real quick. All right. So you know how Chelsea Clinton and the Clinton family invited Ghislaine Maxwell to her wedding. And Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were initial funders of the Clinton Global Initiative. Well, it appears that Chelsea Clinton had a cozy relationship with Jeffrey Epstein herself. She's got a condo in New York City where she lives, and it turns out that Jeffrey Epstein actually funded that condo for her. This is a boutique Manhattan condo building that draws celebrity buyers, including Chelsea Clinton, NASCAR champion Jeff Gordon, Jennifer Lopez, and Jeffrey Epstein was one of the initial investors. We have learned this because of documents recently found inside the Epstein files. The location, luxury apartments, condos rather, at 21 East 26th Street. It's a historic property overlooking Madison Square Park, and it is now marketed as the Whitman. It's a 5-story neo-Georgian building that was transformed into just 4 full-floor residences and a duplex penthouse, a design that helped lure in a roster of high-profile buyers when it launched back in 2013. Behind the scenes, it turns out the developer, David Mitchell, offered Jeffrey Epstein an unusually favorable entry into the project years earlier when he was first getting started. Now, Mitchell ultimately gave Jeffrey Epstein the ask. Epstein committed roughly $920,000 through a stake in the project's sponsor entity and a smaller limited partner investment, a structure that gave him access to profits typically reserved for developers. He went through and he went ahead and did it. He said, "I'm closing today on your deal with no due diligence. I am merely relying on your representations. Thank you and good luck," Epstein wrote to Mr. Mitchell. Here you can see Jennifer Lopez's apartment. She had the penthouse. She purchased this in 2014 for roughly $20 million. And here is Jeffrey Epstein communicating with David Mitchell about future deals they hope to be working on. So Jeffrey Epstein and developer David Mitchell apparently were very close. And isn't it just interesting that Chelsea Clinton came in later on to purchase her own unit in the building? She snapped up her own floor for $9.25 million in 2013, the same year as Jennifer Lopez. So, of course, anytime they say that they have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, you just need to look at the paperwork because it's all right there. All right, now, one thing that we've constantly asked is, why is nobody seemingly looking at the money? Of course, we've done a number of dives on the money here on the show before. We know that Leon Black is one of those people who transferred probably the greatest amount of money back and forth between he and Jeffrey Epstein. He is one of those people that was just subpoenaed by the House Oversight Committee, and that is a result of the money. So it would appear that somebody actually has been paying attention to the money. They just didn't tell us about it so that they could get these guys subpoenaed.
Kentucky Congressman James Comer joins us now. Congressman, what did we learn from the Clinton deposition?
Well, we went through every item of evidence, everything that you've talked about on Fox, every email that would imply that Jeffrey Epstein was communicating with Hillary Clinton, was in the room with Hillary Clinton. She said under oath multiple times she never met Jeffrey Epstein. Even when we showed the picture of her with Jeffrey Epstein, she said she didn't remember meeting with Jeffrey Epstein. President Clinton admitted that Jeffrey Epstein was at the White House 17 times. President Clinton admitted that he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane at at least 27 times. But he said many times that when he found out that Epstein was a bad person, that he cut off all ties with Epstein. So we went through every picture with Bill Clinton and what appear to be underage girls, with what appear to be some of the accusers of Epstein committing wrongdoing and sex trafficking them, and he didn't recall or he denied that the picture was what it seems it was. So we grilled the president in a professional manner. We asked him all the questions that every curious American would have, and they answered them. And I guess time will tell whether or not they were telling the truth.
Time will tell. And what's next for this investigation? Who else will you be calling in for interviews?
Well, we announced 8 more people today will be coming in, including Leon Black, who was primarily the biggest money transfer to Jeffrey Epstein from the limited bank records that I've been able to obtain. Leon Black is a major funder of Jeffrey Epstein's personal wealth. So we're going to bring him in. There was a Wall Street Journal about Leon Black where several women had accused Leon Black of wrongdoing. Kathy Rumler was President Obama's general counsel, who later went on to Goldman Sachs. She communicated with Epstein all the way until the end. She was trying to defend him.
Kathy Rumler is going to be especially interesting given her cozy relationship with the former CIA director under Barack Hussein Obama, personally directing meetings between Jeffrey Epstein and the man himself. So I think that undoubtedly Kathy Rumler was a CIA agent. She was placed within the Obama White House. Obama himself was a CIA candidate. Jeffrey Epstein was working for the CIA. All of this comes together, and once these people get under oath, the answers they give are going to be very telling. Now, as James Comer said, time will tell whether or not they were telling the truth. They were not telling the truth, and they're going to have to be referred for perjury charges. Danny Snow says, I love your show. Thanks for the brilliant stories you cover. In the words of the fabulous President DJT, you're doing a great job. Thanks from your English fan in London. Danny, thank you so much. Stay strong out there in the UK, my friend. Let me say thank you so much to Karen Allen for the cookie. Filter Dog, again, thank you for the can. Tomcat, thank you for the cookie. Good Dog, thank you for the can. Riza Tire says, gifted the shades and says, what's up, RP? We can't wait to hang out with you in Nashville, brother. 07, great show. Could you share this new release with your audience? I think they'd appreciate it. And yes, I will do that right now. Let's go ahead and get that pulled up and see what my friend Adrian and the fam has for us over here at Rise Attire. All right. It is an Epstein Island collection. We've got Ellen DeGeneres sitting on her set with the very famous Jeffrey Epstein temple in the background. And it looks like her eyes are black. Black is her soul. Very nice. Very, very nice. Of course, this is going to be the talk of the next cocktail party you attend. You walk in wearing that, and everybody is going to want to know what's up with that shirt. And then you get to tell them about all of the crimes that Jeffrey Epstein and his celebrity friends committed there on the island. Awesome, dude. Yeah, very, very cool. All right, and I look forward to seeing you in Nashville as well. Also, great news. Speaking of perjury, Cassidy Hutchins has just been referred for criminal charges. She's the one who lied under oath and claimed that President Trump had attacked a Secret Service agent on January 6th. Republican lawmakers have finally referred Ms. Hutchins to the Department of Justice to see if criminal charges can be brought against her. And we say finally because Hutchinson testified under oath several years ago, claiming that President Trump got into a physical altercation with the limo driver, supposedly in The Beast. The only problem is that President Trump wasn't in The Beast on that day. Oh my God, it's another blast from the past. Fredo Awakening is in the chat. You guys give a shout out. Big W in the chat for Fredo Awakening. Thank you very much for those memberships to the people over there on Rumble. Fredo, we love you, brother. It's so good to see you, man. Awesome, awesome stuff. Rise Attire also says, if we, not we, LOL. Gotcha, homie. And then Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. Finally appreciate it. banana over on X, finally on X, first time this week. So yes, we are live every day on X, but maybe it's just your first time watching on X. If you want to chat with a whole bunch of people, then you can come on over to YouTube, Rumble, or Pilled. All three of those places have got people chatting. The way that X does their live streams is really weird. There's like 120 people over there, but nobody chats on X because it's not obvious how you chat. All right, so if you'll remember, Cassidy Hutchins was the star witness of the January 6th committee. She said that once the president had gotten into the vehicle with Bobby, we thought that they were going up to the Capitol. When Bobby relayed to him, we're not. We don't have the assets to do it. It's not secure. We're going back to the West Wing. The president had a very strong, very angry response to that. Deputy Chief of Staff and Anthony Ornato described him as being irate. The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president. Take me to the Capitol now," to which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going back to the Capitol, Mr. Trump." Then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Ornato had recounted this story to me, he had moved toward his clavicles. Now, none of that happened. It was all a fantasy, but Liz Cheney and her friends on the committee still put Miss Hutchinson forward to testify to this piece of fiction publicly. They knew she was lying. We knew she was lying. She knew she was lying. And it's only fitting that finally Cassidy Hutchinson has been referred to the Department of Justice. Immediately after she testified, she became the cause celeb of the left-wing media. She wrote a book. She got a big paycheck. She went on a media tour for that book. People talked about how stunning and brave she was, even though by the time that book came out, her testimony had been completely debunked. So Miss Cassidy Hutchinson is just one in a long line of hoaxes against President Trump. The only problem for her is she told this story under oath. All right. Now, sad to say or not sad at all, it's going to be up to you. A journalist in Nashville, a woman by the name of Estefany Rodriguez. She has just been picked up by ICE. She is now sitting in immigration detention. What's funny about this story is that she came to America in 2021. She claimed asylum, and she missed multiple immigration appointments. But in that time, she got a job at ABC News 2 in Nashville, and she reported exclusively on immigration cases. That's probably not a very smart idea when you're not here legally yourself and you're flaunting your illegal status to the greater Nashville area. At some point, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement is going to pay attention, especially when you don't show up for your scheduled court hearings. Let's take a look at Miss Rodriguez.
A Nashville television reporter now in immigration detention. Estefany Rodriguez, who works for Nashville Noticias and Univision 42, was taken into custody by immigration agents March 4th. According to a statement from the outlet, Rodriguez was with her husband outside a gym on Murfreesboro Pike when several cars surrounded their marked news vehicle. The station says several men then exited those cars and demanded Rodriguez be taken into custody. She was later transported to a detention center.
Up until now, she hasn't had a case with ICE charging her with anything, any part of DHS charging with anything.
Well, here's the thing. You are not charged with anything until the moment you are. And if you have scheduled immigration court hearings to determine the status or the lawfulness of your asylum claim, and you just choose not to show up, and then you blatantly get a job at a local news station parroting left-wing talking points about how immigration enforcement is broken in this country, you're going to test the hand of immigration enforcement, and they might just end up coming and making an example out of you, which is exactly what has happened to Miss Estefany Rodriguez.
Never had a case with immigration courts.
Her attorneys have now filed an emergency federal petition asking a judge to order her release. The lawsuit claims Rodriguez entered the United States legally, applied for asylum, and has been seeking a green card through her U.S. citizen husband. Her lawyer says she had been following ICE instructions and was expected to report to the ICE office later this month. But according to her attorneys, when they checked with ICE about her case, they were told the charging documents were still being finalized.
Now, ICE has claimed that her failing to show up last Wednesday was a sign that she is a flight risk. But in this case, there was an ICE officer who 2 days before said, hey, that appointment does not exist.
Her attorneys now question why she was detained at all. The lawsuit also claims immigration agents arrested her without a warrant, a move her attorneys argue violates the Fourth Amendment.
You're not a citizen of the United States. They don't need a warrant to arrest somebody who's here in the country without legal status. She came here on a tourist visa. She applied for asylum. She has not successfully gotten asylum. That tourist visa has since expired. Miss Rodriguez is an illegal alien present in the United States of America without the proper paperwork. So, unfortunately, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
See, as you can see, the more you around, the more you're going to find out.
Now in detention, her attorneys say she will likely miss an important step in her green card process.
Ay,
The
caramba.
one meeting she might actually miss is she's supposed to go do, her fingerprints for USCIS for her green card application on the 17th of this month. And, can't really get there if you're in detention.
Yeah, they're probably not going to give her the green card now that she's being arrested because that's just how it works.
Statement, the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition says in part, it's not lost on us that as a reporter, as Stephanie honestly and courageously told real stories about the harms caused by ICE and the people they targeted and detained.
You mean illegal aliens? Because that's who is targeted and detained by ICE. It's not our fault that harm is done to you when you're not here in this country legally. It's your fault for not going through the process the right way. I have zero sympathy for Stephanie Rodriguez or her husband. I'm sorry about that, but I have no sympathy.
Rodriguez is expected to have a hearing March 21st. Her attorneys say a bond motion is likely to follow. Until then, she's being held at a detention center in Louisiana. We reached out to Homeland Security for more information, and we haven't heard back. Back to you.
Bum, 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 bum. Hold on. All right. Now, we also need to check in with U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley in Los Angeles. There was a massive operation that took place this morning to clean up the filthy, disgusting den of iniquity, MacArthur Park. There was a series of arrests for the top leaders of the notorious drug street gang known as the 18th Street Gang. This was conducted at the behest of AG Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel to dismantle the violent organized crime that was taking place there in open-air drug markets. Let's take a look. Also, if you guys have ever been to MacArthur Park, it's disgusting. Absolutely filthy. Just the nastiest place. You never want to go there.
Agents arresting 12 members of a ruthless street gang during an early morning raid in L.A. Officials say the 18th Street Gang is organized by the Mexican mafia and smuggles fentanyl and meth into the U.S. And Matt Finn was embedded with the FBI for the takedown. He's in Los Angeles with more. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Dana. The 18th Street Gang is considered a rival of the infamous MS-13, and the feds tell us the 18th Street Gang uses Los Angeles as its main distribution point for selling drugs worldwide. Law enforcement busting 12 members of the transnational 18th Street Gang, including top brass, in an early morning sting Thursday called Operation Dead Horse. A Fox camera exclusively rolling as the FBI raided one of the suspected stash houses. The DOJ says the 18th Street Gang has 100,000 members and is one of the largest and most violent gangs in the Western Hemisphere.
It's not just LA, and in fact, it's a transnational gang, so they have control all over, even outside of this country.
LAPD tells Fox the gang imports narcotics like fentanyl from the Mexican Sinaloa cartel at a discount, then marks up the price and sells lethal drugs all over the world.
Part of this investigation does discuss how the shots, the leaders, are housed currently in California State Prison. The key thing is they need people at the outside to do their work, their dirty work, and those are the people that we went after today.
One of the alleged drug trafficking bosses arrested is a 61-year-old woman, busted with meth, fentanyl, and guns. Investigators say the 18th Street Gang has diabolically turned LA's historic MacArthur Park into an open-air drug market, extorting street vendors and even homeless people to...
They're pulling bodies out of that water all the time. There is drug bags all over the place, lots of litter. I mean, you look around, you see all these just white flecks. It's just trash laying around. Lots of homeless people doing drugs there. Lots of people who aren't homeless doing drugs there because they just want to go and score some fentanyl or a couple of crack rocks. People getting shot. They find weapons in the lake all the time. There are still like ducks and geese that come and try to live in this water, and it's just absolutely filthy. It's full of E. coli, all kinds of microbes. Like if you go in that water, you're probably not going to come out.
Pay dues and assist or risk being murdered. The complaint reads the gang told one business, if you don't cooperate with us, that's it, you're done. And this was a years-long investigation, including LAPD and the feds. The DOJ says they're going after cases like this because the president has instructed them to target open-air drug markets and transnational gangs. Back to you.
Yeah, some of that video was incredible, especially that overhead shot. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible in the way that you don't ever want to be there. You don't ever want to go. Lee Walden says, ahoy, Zach, Miss Lisa, and crew. Here's my challenge for the Exhaust Fan Fund. Hope you can get it resolved. I do, too. I have to call a roofer, unfortunately. My neighbor said he would come over and try to help me, but we're going to have to put a hole in that metal, and I'm really not looking forward to that. There's also a possibility there might be a leak higher up. So I just kind of want to call a roofer. Anyways, the Oversight Committee chairman has suggested there will be criminal referrals for the Minnesota fraud probe that we've seen and spoken about very recently. That, of course, is James Comer. He spoke with Just the News, and he said further criminal referrals are definitely possible with the evidence the committee has been able to uncover regarding this rampant and statewide fraud in Minnesota. That report that I made mention of the other day that came out just before Tim Walz and Keith Ellison sat down to answer questions concluded ultimately that senior Minnesota governor officials, which included Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, were totally aware for years of the claims of widespread fraud that had infiltrated the state's federally funded welfare programs. But not only did they fail to act, but they retaliated against whistleblowers. Comer said that they have already shared those findings with the Justice Department. I believe that the Justice Department has already said that they are more than motivated to bring charges against everyone they possibly can in the state of Minnesota. Just because Tim Walz is the governor, just because Keith Ellison is the attorney general, is no reason to give them a pass. If anything, these people need to be held to greater account. And I don't care what political party they are. If we find that Republicans are involved in fraud, I want them to be indicted and I want them to be locked up and given the maximum sentence. We've given the Justice Department the report today that shows Walz and them knew. I don't know that it's a crime. Incompetence isn't a crime, unfortunately. But at the end of the day, if some of these fraudsters implicate a coordination with General Ellison or Governor Walz, then I think you could see some criminal referrals from the committee. Walz, who was also, of course, the Democratic nominee for VP in 2024, has previously acknowledged that, yes, there is fraud in his state, but he said his administration has made it a priority to root it out for years. They just haven't been very good at it. He appeared at the Oversight Committee hearing on Wednesday alongside Ellison, where they both defended their handling of the fraud allegations. They touted the federal prosecution of more than 75 defendants, but they struggled to answer why his own government did not take action against these suspected fraudsters after his office was informed of this very suspicious activity. I have watched with dismay as members of this committee have made unfounded allegations that I am somehow complicit in defrauding Minnesota programs. As a former member of Congress, I know that this institution can be better than these evidence-free accusations levied for nakedly partisan reasons, he said. But the Oversight Committee believes the evidence actually shows exactly the opposite. Tim Walz and his key senior officials knew about the fraud concerns from the very beginning of his tenure. and ultimately just failed to act to address it before facing public backlash and pressure from the federal government in recent months. And of course, plenty of pressure from the public as well. The evidence comes from testimony gathered by the committee from 9 current and former Minnesota state officials, the whistleblowers who oversaw the benefits programs within the Minnesota Department of Education, Department of Human Services, and the 2 government bodies that oversaw the programs at the center of the fraud allegations. The Oversight Committee launched this investigation back in December after the allegations of fraud in Minnesota's public benefit programs first came to light, including the evidence of daycare fraud. And many of these individuals have begun to be investigated and are now being charged. I told you about a fraudulent daycare owner the other day who was charged. Every time I can tell you about somebody in Minnesota being charged with a crime, I intend to do so. And I will be most pleased when finally I can tell you that Tim Walz and Keith Ellison are charged as well. But again, the problem is not that they haven't committed a crime. It's, can we prove that they've committed a crime? All right. Now, also coming out of Minnesota, busloads of Somali citizens are now being deported back to their home country, their dirt patches that they left many years ago, out of the state of Minnesota. Some reports of over 2,000 Somalis already having been deported, with estimates upward of 5,000 expecting to be deported before April. Somali citizens who came to America tend to forget what it is that they came from. A lot of Americans feel that Somalis don't appreciate this country and actively work to hurt it. This perception would become visible after, of course, Nick Shirley exposed so many different Somali scams, massive taxpayer fraud being conducted by the Somali community all over Minneapolis. I would say that most Americans probably support, ultimately, the deportation or even the denaturalization of every single Somali that is clogging up the system in Minnesota. I think at this point, it is incumbent upon them to prove that they're not committing fraud, because it seems like damn near every single one of them does. Also, Jeanine Pirro and the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. has announced that Stephen A. Price of the District of Columbia, a 69-year-old man, Keedy C. Moore, 39, of Temple Hills, Maryland, both were found guilty in U.S. District Court of conspiring to defraud D.C. Medicaid of $4 million. Now, I guess that Price is a dentist. He operates the Washington Smile Center in Northwest Washington. Moore was an employee at the Washington Smile Center. She worked as a dental hygienist. Beginning in January of 2017 and continuing through March of 2022, Price and Moore conspired to defraud D.C. Medicaid by submitting repeated claims for reimbursement for clinical crown lengthening. That's a surgical procedure. And space maintainers. That's a dental device primarily used for children, for services that were not actually performed. The jury deliberated for more than a week before finding Price and Moore guilty of conspiracy, healthcare fraud, false statements, and wire fraud. Thank you very much to Jeanine Pirro and an honest jury in D.C. Good God, you'd hardly ever see it. We've also learned about many Somali scammers in the state of Maine and in Portland, Maine. The owner of a Maine language interpretation business has just pled guilty in federal court as of yesterday. Prosecutors say this scheme involved multiple companies that would bill MaineCare for, again, services that never happened. This is a repeating theme here. 30-year-old Rakia Mohammed, who lives in Auburn, owned Reliable Language Resources. She admitted to filing false federal tax returns. Prosecutors say she reported fake income and expenses and gave falsified records to the IRS. When she is sentenced, Mohammed faces up to 3 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Also, out of the state of Colorado, another very similar theme. A federal audit has just found $77.8 million in improper Medicaid payments, once again for autism therapy. Colorado's Medicaid payments for a therapeutic program for individuals with autism increased by 172% in just 4 years. That prompted a federal audit by the Office of the Inspector General. 100%. Every single one of the claims that were inspected for autism care in the state of Colorado, were either improper or flawed. There were 100 claims that were reviewed. 93 had problems. Providers either lacked notes confirming the therapy ever took place, they failed to provide required signatures, or they billed for more time than their documentations showed. So ironically, you're not seeing a lot of coverage on this out of Colorado. There's precious little to talk about it. So once again, it appears that we have another state that needs to be very closely looked at. Don't be surprised if you hear that Medicaid and Medicare start cutting off funding to the state of Colorado as well. We also have now another case of fraudsters, this time a Medicaid fraud ring busted in eastern North Carolina. There were 4 people sentenced in a $12 million Medicaid fraud scheme. Let's go ahead and take a listen. This is from WITN, local news.
A $12.7 million Medicaid fraud scheme in eastern Carolina has led to 4 prison sentences and the seizure of millions of dollars. The U.S. Attorney's Office says Kiki Johnson, Francine Super, Brandon Sims, and Kimberly Sims ran LifeTouch LLC, a substance abuse company in Kinston and Goldsboro, and First Choice Healthcare Services, a urine drug screening company in Kinston. Over 5 years, prosecutors say Johnson and Super oversaw more than $1 million in illegal kickbacks to lure patients to show up for services that Medicaid would pay for. Johnson and Super will spend 6 years in prison with over $15 million in Medicaid restitution. Brandon Sims was sentenced to 3 years with over $12 million in restitution, while Kimberly Sims was sentenced to 2 years with over $1 million in restitution.
Well, at least they're getting some of the money back, and thank the Lord they are going to prison. They deserve it. Tamarack Flats tipped via Rumble Wallet. We'll see if that, well, maybe there isn't a message, but thank you very much, Rick. Appreciate you, buddy. And don't forget, you guys, my good friends over at Tamarack Gardens. They are a sponsor of the program. Let me just remind you. Oh, that's the wrong screen right there. Let me just get that fixed. There we go. Here, we'll go to this display capture, and there we are. All right. My good friends at TamarackGarden.com, TamarackGarden.com. These are natural healthcare products that are produced by their family, American patriots, all from locally sourced ingredients. You've got things for mothers and babies, herbal supplements, teas and syrups, dermatologist recommended products for your skin, outdoor care, and herbal remedies and salves. You can see a whole bunch of information about them on the website. But when you go to TamarackGarden.com and use the code RedPill78, you guys will save $10 off your order. So definitely give them a shout out and check the link in the description below this video. We also have a story coming out of Washington, D.C. Andre Wright, who was the second in command at the Metropolitan Police Department, he was the executive assistant chief for patrol operations there in the D.C. office, has just been placed on administrative leave. His wife is also on administrative leave. Her name was Inspector Natasha Wright, also employed by the Metropolitan Police Department. This is related to the ongoing investigation into the manipulation in crime statistics. Multiple sources indicate Wright's phone was also seized as part of this probe, and inappropriate messages were reportedly discovered. Now, what is the exact nature of those inappropriate messages? We don't know yet. Likely there will be an investigation, seeing if there were any other crimes that he committed. Certainly the manipulation of crime statistics seems like it should be an illegal act. I'm not exactly certain about that. I've heard about a couple of different places actually doing this, but I've never actually heard of anyone getting in trouble for it. Certainly losing your job is a form of accountability. But if the manipulation of these crime statistics led to perhaps an actual increase in crime, or citizens of Washington, D.C. being victimized because there wasn't enough resources present on the streets to make sure that people weren't getting hurt, well, hopefully something else will happen to Andre and his wife, Natasha. But good riddance to bad rubbish. We also have an investigation coming out of the FBI's Oklahoma City's office, the OSBI, that is the Oklahoma Special Bureau of Investigations, if I remember that correctly, but this is their Crimes Against Children unit. A Crimes Against Children investigator has actually just been sentenced to more than 9 years in federal prison for multiple counts of sexual abuse of a minor. Isn't that crazy how that works? We're talking about the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Oklahoma, and the defendant is Jordan Francis Toyne. He's 37, of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. He was sentenced to 109 months in prison for each of 3 counts of sexual abuse of a minor in Indian country. The court ordered the sentences to be served concurrently. The charges arose after an investigation by the FBI and the Owasso Police Department, together with cooperation and special assistance from the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. On January 23rd of this year, Toyne was found guilty for the charges by jury at a federal trial. Investigators say Toyne sexually abused a minor beginning in the summer of 2020, continuing until 2023, when the victim reached 16 years of age. And during the course of the investigation, it was discovered that Toyne abused a second minor back in 2021. During this time, Toyne was serving disgustingly as an investigator at the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation's Internet Crimes Against Children unit. So he was virtually using his position to gain access to children that could be abused. He resigned his post prior to the completion of an internal investigation conducted by OSBI. The victims were unrelated to Toyne's official duties at the OSBI. However, investigators uncovered evidence showing that Toyne used his specialized knowledge as a child crimes investigator so that he could groom the victims and evade detection for his crimes. The crimes occurred in Pittsburgh County within the boundaries of the Choctaw Nation Reservation in the Eastern District of Oklahoma. So hopefully he gets exactly what he deserves while he's in prison for the next 109 months. Also coming out of Washington, D.C., a major victory for the Second Amendment. They had previously put on plan a 10-round magazine ban. So essentially, anything over 10 rounds would be considered illegal if you were in the boundaries of the District of Columbia. Now, the decision came down from the Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the city's highest court, and they've ruled that the district's ban on firearm magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds is, in fact, a violation of the Second Amendment. This decision is obviously a victory for gun owners and constitutional advocates who have long argued that the district's strict firearm laws infringe on Americans' rights to keep and bear arms. It's also worth mentioning that Based Mike Lee in the Senate has just put forth a piece of legislation that was crafted by Gun Owners of America to create a system for constitutional carry reciprocity throughout every state in America, which means that the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment no matter what state you go to. Of course, that still has to make its way through Congress, but if they are successful, then that will be awesome. I don't know if you guys were here, if you heard me mention this, but West Virginia is also currently, they've just made it legal for the state of West Virginia to sell machine guns to law-abiding West Virginians. Although the National Firearms Act has a restriction on the sale or manufacture of machine guns after 1986, there is no such restriction for government agencies to sell or transfer machine guns to private citizens who are law-abiding. So the state of West Virginia is creating a government agency whose sole purpose it will be to sell machine guns to its citizens. And if anybody here lives in West Virginia, please get yourself a machine gun and then invite me out to the range, and we can go test that shit out. I'm almost thinking about moving to West Virginia, folks. I'm serious here. Like, how cool would that be? Either that, or I'm just gonna get my license to produce. I think it's like a Form 7, it's called. Then I can produce guns. Then I can just make my own machine gun. Either way. All right, now. We also had a report that came out very recently suggesting that the Florida State Bar was probing Lindsay Halligan, looking to maybe take her law license after her tenure at the Department of Justice and supposedly going after people for political reasons. It turns out that that is fake news. The Florida State Bar has now cleared up the situation, saying that they erroneously stated that Halligan was under investigation. Don't know how that would have happened, but it's clear that somebody was trying to get Lindsay Halligan investigated and to have her law license taken away. So this was completely inaccurate. I saw it widely posted around and reported, and I wanted to dive in and see if it was really true. Now, the Bar Association told the Campaign for Accountability, which originally filed ethics complaints against Halligan, that it was aware of the issues and it was reviewing them. And then multiple outlets went and reported that there was an investigation underway, but then they came back, the Bar Association, and issued a statement saying that this was an erroneous claim. We are not investigating Lindsay Halligan. In response to an inquiry from a complainant, the Florida Bar wrote a letter to the complainant erroneously stating that there is a pending bar investigation of member Lindsay Halligan. There is no pending bar investigation of Lindsay Halligan. In this case, the Florida Bar received a complaint against Halligan, and consistent with standing practice, the bar is monitoring the ongoing legal proceedings underlying the complaint. So the Campaign for Accountability is a left-wing organization. They essentially go after people who support President Trump. That's just the way that it is, and they definitely want to stop Lindsay Halligan from ever making her way back into the Department of Justice. All right. Thank you very much to Sean Joe over on Pilled for 1, 2, 3, 4 cookies. Thank you to Darla as well, who says, thanks again, Zach and Lisa, for your perseverance and dedication to keeping us all informed and connected. Thank you, Darla. I appreciate that. All right. Now, a federal judge 2 days ago on Wednesday has just ordered the Trump administration to start refunding $130 billion in tariffs. Now, the decision, of course, is going to be appealed. The administration is not just going to let this kind of simmer and start paying back these tariffs. But this was from Judge Richard Eaton. He's a Clinton appointee, and he says that the administration must begin paying back that $130 billion. So this is an estimated amount. He wrote a 3-page order saying that the U.S. would begin with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, calculating what importers would have paid without the now invalid tariffs. Eaton also made clear he had sole jurisdiction over the refunds, which more than 1,000 companies have sued over in the U.S. Court of International Trade. The chief judge has indicated that I am the only judge who will hear cases pertaining to the refund of International Emergency Economic Powers Act duties, Eaton wrote. So there is no danger that another judge, even one in this court, will reach any contrary conclusions. They have fixed it good, you guys. The case in question was brought by Atmos Filtration Incorporated. It's a company that paid President Trump's tariffs, which Trump imposed on nearly every country on an emergency basis under IEEPA last year. Again, FedEx has also filed a lawsuit for refunds, but the administration has already made clear that the tariffs are here. We're not just going to start paying people back, so don't even worry about that. All right, now, J.B. Pritzker has come up in the news recently because Bill Clinton testified he took him on Epstein's Lolita Express. J.B. Pritzker says that didn't happen. However, there is something that J.B. Pritzker did. It turns out that he set up a confidential LLC, and that LLC was used to funnel millions of dollars in secret payments into and then pay his staff. At the same time, he was paying his staff with taxpayer money. Now, J.B. Pritzker's ownership of this multi-million-dollar LLC is something that he would necessarily have to report on his financial disclosures. Isn't it funny? He never reported this organization on his financial disclosures. Illinois law calls this supplementation of salary. It's actually an illegal thing to do, and it's a financial and ethics violation on behalf of J.B. Pritzker. He's the governor of the state. He runs the LLC. He cuts every check for both of them. And you can see here his chief of staff, Ann Caphara. She receives a state salary of $222,720. And then East Jackson Street LLC, which is the secret LLC that J.B. Pritzker also runs while he's governor, pays her $150,000. Then you've got deputy governors. There's 4 deputy governors. They each receive $195,372 per year, and they each also get paid $139,000 from Governor Pritzker's secret company. Then you have senior advisors. They receive $175,764, and then they also get another $60,000 check from that secret organization. You have a series of other individuals who are deputy assistant governors. They get paid between $103,000 and $107,000 a year, and they each also receive a supplemental check of $82,000 from J.B. Pritzker's secret company. This is highly illegal. Highly illegal, and J.B. Pritzker is already now being called out for it. Let's take a look.
Pritzker's huge wealth impact. Illinois' incoming billionaire governor J.B. Pritzker is reaching into his own pocket to ensure his top staffers will be paid top dollar. It's the first example of Pritzker's huge wealth impacting how government functions. CBS 2 political reporter Derek Blakely has more on mixing public and private pay for state workers.
So it looks like this clip is actually from when J.B. Pritzker was first elected to office. And this secret shell company that they're talking about is what he referenced when he said that they would be paying additional money to his staffers so that they, I guess, would, want to work for him rather than going to work in the private sector. But the problem is that it is an illegal practice, and he's never reported any of this money. He's just basically cutting out checks.
When former State Comptroller Dan Hines goes to work Monday as deputy governor for J.B. Pritzker, he'll find a little something extra in his paycheck. In fact, a lot extra. Hines' state salary of $139,000 will be doubled with another $139,000 provided directly by J.B. Pritzker out of his own pocket. That will bring Hines' total pay to $278,000 a year. Pritzker says he's taking this step to recruit the top talent to state government to best address the challenges Illinois faces. And Hines won't be the only one to benefit. Pritzker's fellow deputy governors, Jesse Ruiz and Christian Mitchell, will also receive $278,000, half paid personally by Pritzker. Meantime, Pritzker's chief of staff, Ann Caprara, will be paid $148,000 by the state, with Pritzker adding an additional $150,000. Her total pay, $298,000. In all, some 20 high-level Pritzker employees will receive similar treatment. Pritzker, one of the heirs to the Hyatt hotel fortune, is worth more than $3 billion. He spent $171 million on his own gubernatorial campaign. And when he takes the oath of office on Monday, Pritzker will become the richest elected official in the entire country.
Interesting stuff, Derek. He joins us now from the newsroom, and you found...
Well, now, isn't President Trump the richest elected official in the country? I guess I don't know when J.B. Pritzker was actually elected, but either way. All right, now, let us briefly check in with the vibe on Cuba. President Trump spoke at an event yesterday while he was with the soccer team from Miami, and he was talking about Cuba. And he suggested that something big is coming. Not only are there deals that are currently being made with Cuba, but it's going to mean something special for the Cuban refugees that are currently down here in America, many of them in Miami. Let me just get past
Listen up, man.
This ad real quick.
Congratulations as well to co-owners Jorge and Jose Mas, who came from Cuba, right? Originally from Cuba. Huh? Your parents came, and you're going to go back. Oh yeah. It's going to be, and you won't need my approval. You just fly back in when I can just see that. It's going to be a great day, right? We're going to celebrate that separately. I just want to wait a couple of weeks. I wanted to wait a couple of weeks, but we'll be together again soon, I suspect, celebrating what's going on in Cuba. They want to make a deal so badly, you have no idea.
All right, so making a deal with Cuba, obviously that's going to bring a little bit more stability and tranquility to the Western Hemisphere. Cuba has, for many years been kind of a thorn in the side of America. He said Cuba is going to fall too. We cut off all the money, all the oil. We cut off everything coming in from Venezuela when that was the sole source. And now they want to make a deal. Now, there was another development that took place. The Justice Department is apparently preparing to indict Cuban leaders because President Trump says the island is about to fall. Let's go ahead and check in with this. This was reported in an interview on CNN, so take it with a grain of salt. But President Trump's administration is currently working to develop possible criminal cases tied to issues like drugs and violence. This would be a multi-agency effort, and U.S. officials, of course, have charged former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife with drug conspiracy charges here in the U.S. Federal officials that would be charged in Cuba would obviously ratchet up the pressure on the country, and they could use it as a basis for deal-making, including the economic sanctions that have already been placed on them by the State Department and the cutoff of necessary goods and services that were previously coming from Venezuela. Now, I think we're going to go ahead and end with this right here. Apparently, the exiled crown prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, he's the son of the former Shah of Iran, has, quote, accepted the responsibility of serving as Iran's transitional leader as the Islamic regime is ousted. Now, I'm not particularly surprised by this, but I don't know that this is sanctioned by the U.S. government. I don't know that this is anything more than this man just saying, hey, I will go ahead and do the job. I mean, he's been basically stumping for this job since he and his family got kicked out of Iran back in 1979.
The Islamic Republic has launched missiles at the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Jordan, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia. It is targeting our Arab neighbors. These violations of their sovereignty are unacceptable, and we condemn them. But this is nothing new. This is who the Islamic Republic has always been.
So if I really had to guess on what's going on here, because there's been no announcement from the U.S. government, he has not been recognized as the leader in exile or anything like that. I think that this is similar to what we saw with Maria Corina Machado down in Venezuela, where she basically publicly came out and said, I'll be the leader. And then the press was like, are you going to make her the leader? And Trump was like, no, she doesn't have the support. I don't know what his support would be among the Iranian people, certainly among the Iranian dissidents that are living in the United States now. Those were people who were allies of the Shah. So, they would be fine with this. But does he have support of the actual people who have been living in Iran all these years? I can't say that with any certainty. So I don't know that this is really going to hold any sort of weight. But I think actually I would like to end with this video right here. This is Tim Burchett calling out Lindsey Graham for, first of all, Lindsey Graham said that he wants the United States to attack Hezbollah. But in order to attack Hezbollah, then that would mean that we would have to attack Lebanon. Lebanon has just kicked all Hezbollah people out of their country, so there's no reason for us to attack Lebanon. But Tim Burchett says that Lindsey Graham hasn't seen a fist fight he hasn't wanted to turn into a bombing. And I thought that was right on. Oh, God. Okay. Tim Burchett. Dadgummit, here we go.
I'll get you next, ma'am. Go ahead, brother.
Senator Lindsey Graham is now calling for the U.S. to start bombing Lebanon in response to the Hezbollah IDF action.
Lindsey hadn't seen a fist fight he hasn't wanted to turn into a bombing raid, so I just take it with a grain of salt, dude. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, short, sweet, and to the point. All right. Finally, before we go through these last thank yous over here on Rumble and Pilled, let me say thank you very much one more time to Rumble. If you guys still have not yet tried 1775 coffee, this is your opportunity. They've got some of those starter kits available. You're going to get their bold dark roast, their smooth medium roast, and their vitality mushroom coffee that gives you clean energy and laser focus with no crash. It's all made from the highest quality beans, single origin, small batch, toxin, and mold free. You're also going to get their gold spoon clip, a strong frother, and a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, and it's all yours for $99. If you've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble and wonder if it's actually worth it, it truly is, and you should truly give it a shot. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab one of those starter kits before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Thank you so much for Rumble supporting the program. And thank you very much to our friends over here on Pilled. Finally, thank you to No Thanks Joe, who says, thanks, Lisa and Zach. Have a great weekend. God bless and be safe. And Trisha has dropped off a link for us to play. This is apparently Iranians in London who honored the fallen American troops at the U.S. Embassy, the American troops who lost their lives after Iran responded.
As it faithfully goes, have concealed, have disclosed. Now we catches the gleam of the morning's first beam. The glory reflected now shines on the screen. 'Tis the stars and the
So it almost sounded like they were singing the Star-Spangled Banner partially in Farsi. Very cool. Also, several new drops over here on Rumble. Thank you so much, guys. Principled Enigma says, I really miss your Friday and Saturday night live streams. Why not take some time in a couple of weeks, weekly, do a broadcast to interact with the audience? Because for every single day I do the interactions with the audience, and I don't have any time to do additional shows beyond the 5 shows that we do during the week. So are you saying, like, you want to do call-ins again? I mean, I could maybe, see working in like a call-in on a Friday or something like that, especially if it's a slow news day. But part of the problem is there is just so much stuff to go over. And although I do miss doing the Friday and Saturday night shows, it's just, to be quite honest, infinitely easier on my life here at home and my life professionally to do just the 5 shows per week, because I am still doing several shows a week over on Badlands as well. So I love you, brother. It's good to see you. Warrior Mima says, happy anniversary to Zach and Lisa. That's right. Sunday is our 1-year wedding anniversary. It was 1 year ago on March 8th that we were married in Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you so much for that, Warrior Mima. Also, Artsy Joan, please pray for Best Naughty Ever. She's fighting hard. I don't know what's happened to Best Naughty Ever. If somebody can email me, I would really appreciate it. But please keep Best Naughty Ever in your prayers. Thank you so much for letting us know, Joan. I really do appreciate it. All right, you guys, keep her in your prayers. Keep everybody who is currently fighting some physical malady or sickness in your prayers. And I will be back on Monday right here at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live. I will also be joining the gang tonight over on Badlands for Only Lands at 10:30 tonight. And then the rest of the weekend, I have to do my taxes. If you don't know this year, business taxes are due March 15th. At least that's what my accountant told me. So I have to bust my ass this weekend and get my books done. All right, you guys, good luck, God bless, and I will see you on the next one.